Some secrets are meant to stay buried. But in Brookfall, the past refuses to die. Detective Mara Ellison and journalist Jonah Reyes enter a maze of abandoned tunnels and discover a truth that could haunt them forever. Decades of missing children, abandoned tunnels, a mysterious cult, and a faceless killer who left messages behind. This is the story of Brookfall's darkest secrets, and it starts with one student who stumbled onto the truth. A young woman is found dead in an abandoned city tunnel, her hands folded over her stomach, eyes staring at the gray sky. Beside her, a chilling message: "I keep what they lose." Detective Mara Ellison is about to uncover a secret that the city has hidden for decades. What she finds will shock you. Detective Mara Ellison spent 12 years hunting killers in the city of Brookfall. But on the morning she stepped into the abandoned rail depot, she uncovered a secret that would unravel every truth she thought she understood. Because carved into the rusted metal beside a young woman's body was a message the city had seen before, decades ago, on cases it swore didn't exist. "I keep what they lose." And what happened next would expose one of the darkest hidden histories Brookfall has ever buried. This is the story of a city that forgot its ghosts, and the monster who never forgot his victims. Brookfall was never a city that slept. It just dimmed. The kind of place where the shadows hung a little heavier, the air tasted of rust and rain, and every street corner carried a rumor no one wanted to believe. Once, Brookfall thrived on industry, steel, machinery, freight. But decades of neglect carved it open like an old wound. Factories shut down, families left, and what remained became a playground for drugs, crime, and secrets. This is where Detective Mara Ellison worked, where she built a career on cases that made other detectives retire early or drink themselves numb, and where she tried, every day, to outrun a ghost from her own past. Mara wasn't just good at her job, she was relentless. 12 years in the violent crimes unit had sharpened her instincts to a razor's edge. She could read a crime scene the way a musician reads sheet music, feeling the rhythm, the intention, the discord. But excellence came with scars. Her brother's disappearance, when she was 17, carved a hole nothing ever filled. No body, no suspect, no closure. Just a police report full of contradictions, and one disturbing sentence in his notebook that no one took seriously. The keeper knows. A failed marriage followed. Then an internal investigation, one she barely survived. So she stopped relying on people. She relied on routine. Black coffee, stale bagels, late nights, cold cases she reread like scripture. Until the call came in, just after sunrise. The jogger who found the body thought she was sleeping, until he noticed the way her hands were folded, too carefully, too intentionally. Mara arrived first, wind slicing through her coat, breath clouding in the cold. The victim was Clara Weiss, 21, soft-spoken, a student at Brookfall Community College. But what stopped Mara cold wasn't Clara's lifeless expression. It was the message carved into the rusted metal beside her. "I keep what they lose." For Mara, it wasn't just unsettling. It was familiar, because years ago, buried in her brother's confiscated notebook, she'd seen almost the same words. Across the city, investigative journalist Jonah Reyes stared at the breaking news alert on his cracked phone screen. Jonah wasn't supposed to be back in Brookfall. Not after the scandal, not after the article that destroyed his career. But Brookfall had a way of dragging people home, especially the broken ones. And when he saw the message near Clara's body, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. A lead. A real one. The kind that whispers truth beneath the noise. Jonah had seen that phrase before, in cases from the 1990s. Disappearances the police dismissed as runaways. Children, teenagers, young adults. Each case had one thing in common. Notes found in abandoned buildings, signed with variations of the same message. Brookfall buried those cases. Jonah didn't. Brookfall reacted like a city struck in a soft bruise. Parents pulled their kids out of school. Store owners closed early. Rumors exploded online. Corruption, cover-ups, serial killers, government experiments. But the loudest accusation was simple. The police failed us. And Mara felt that weight personally. Clara Weiss was not the kind of victim killers usually chose. A quiet student. A part-time assistant at the Brookfall Historical Archives. A young woman who spent more time in libraries than parties. So why her? When Mara interviewed Clara's mother, the answer chilled her. Clara had been researching local disappearances. The same cold cases the city ignored. The same cases tied to the same phrase from the crime scene. Inside Clara's computer were bookmarked files about sealed city tunnels, missing children, corruption cases, urban legends called the Keeper. And suddenly, everything felt too connected. Meanwhile, Jonah's investigation spiraled. He mapped decades of disappearances. He reread every case dismissed by police. He compared handwriting samples. He followed rumors of abandoned tunnels beneath the city, old routes once used for illegal labor. Every path led back to one truth. Brookfall wasn't just hiding a killer. It was protecting him. When Jonah approached Mara with his findings, she refused at first. She didn't trust journalists, especially him. But then he showed her something that shattered her resistance. A photo, an old case file, with the same message as Clara's crime scene. I keep what they lose. From that moment, Mara and Jonah became reluctant partners, not out of trust, but necessity. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this grip your curiosity and you want more tales that unravel hidden truths, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It truly helps these stories reach others who crave a thrill. Have you ever encountered a mystery that completely changed your perspective? Share your story in the comments below. Detective Mara Ellison had seen countless crime scenes in her 10 years on the force: drug houses, alleyway stabbings, domestic horrors, but nothing unsettled her quite like the warehouse on Brayford Avenue. Even after leaving the scene, even after the body was taken, even after the forensic team collected their samples, the feeling lingered, like someone had been watching her from just beyond the fog. By midday, the warehouse district was quieter, but the crime scene tapes still fluttered in the cold wind like a warning banner. Mara stood beside the coroner's van, flipping through her notebook while Dr. Klein, the county medical examiner, closed the back doors. She was alive before the throat wound, Klein said, removing his gloves. And terrified. Mara's jaw tightened. Any defensive wounds? Minimal. I think she was restrained. But there's something else. He lowered his voice. That mask we found. Cracked, ceramic, handcrafted. Whoever did this wanted her to look at him. Mara scribbled. A fetishistic ritual? Psychological domination? Or theatrics? The meme muttered. Some killers enjoy staging. She closed the notebook slowly. Staging usually meant practice. This wasn't random. This wasn't spontaneous. This was someone who had killed before. And someone who planned to kill again. Lieutenant Briggs walked over, coat collar up, chewing the end of a pen. ID came in, he said. Her name's Lydia Marin, 26. Works freelance marketing gigs. No priors. Lived alone. Mara looked up sharply. Any family. A sister in Harbor City. Estranged. Briggs handed her a thin file. But here's the kicker. Lydia reported someone stalking her 2 months ago. She stopped answering our follow-ups. Mara's stomach dropped. Who took the initial report? Detective Rowan. Mara's expression darkened for a moment. Detective Rowan had a habit of marking stalking cases as low priority, unless there was a physical attack. She exhaled slowly, trying to release her irritation. Now was not the time. We'll need to reopen her harassment file, Mara said. Briggs nodded. Already pulled it. But there isn't much. No suspect ID, no plate numbers, no audio, nothing. Just Lydia saying someone was following her at night. Did she describe him? Briggs hesitated. She actually said it wasn't a person. Mara blinked. What? She wrote that she felt watched, like something stood at the end of her apartment hallway for hours. But every time she checked, nothing was there. He shrugged. Could be paranoia. Could be fear. Or, he didn't finish. Mara didn't need him to. Lydia Marin's apartment building sat 3 blocks from the river, once a hub for steelworkers, now a mix of young professionals, and forgotten families. The manager, a balding middle-aged man with nervous eyes, led Mara up the stairwell. She was quiet. He kept repeating, "Paid on time. No trouble." When she reported the stalking thing, she seemed shaken, but I never saw anyone suspicious. Inside the apartment, Mara immediately felt the silence. Too clean. Too neat. A life lived carefully. She walked slowly through the place. Books stacked on the nightstand. A half-finished cup of tea on the counter. A laptop still open on a job application portal. But then she saw it. A small camera mounted above the living room bookshelf. Recently installed. "Manager," Mara called. "Did you know this was here?" He shook his head. "I don't allow unauthorized fixtures." But she said she'd feel safer if she could record at night. Mara crouched beside the device, inspecting it. It was angled toward the front door, and the hardwood entryway showed faint marks, scratches near the lock. Someone had tried to get in. "Did Lydia give you any names?" Mara asked. He swallowed. "Only one. She said she thought it was the man with the cracked face." But she never explained. Mara froze. Her flashlight beam in the warehouse had landed on an object. A mask. Ceramic. Cracked down the center. Back at the precinct, Mara plugged the camera's SD card into the department workstation. Briggs stood behind her, coffee in hand. "Ready?" she asked. Briggs nodded. The footage was grainy but clear enough. The timestamp read 1:48 a.m. Lydia lay sleeping on the couch. A faint creak echoed from the hallway. The apartment door handle twitched. Mara felt a chill crawl up her arms. The handle turned again, slowly, methodically, as if testing its limits. Then it stopped. Silence. A shadow passed under the doorframe. Humanoid. Tall. Wide-shouldered. Lydia stirred, sitting up abruptly. "Hello," she called. The shadow froze. Lydia stood, trembling. "Who's there?" And then, a whisper. A low, distorted rasp that the microphone barely caught. "I'm here." Mara's hand gripped the mouse tighter. The shadow shifted. The door bent inward slightly, straining against the lock. Then, suddenly, the shadow retreated. The clip ended. Briggs exhaled. He came back. He always comes back. Mara stared, heart pounding in her ribs. He wasn't just stalking her, she said. He was rehearsing. A loud knock on the office door made both detectives jump. Officer Ramirez poked her head in. "Detective Ellison, you need to see the front desk." "Why?" Ramirez swallowed. "Someone left you something." Mara and Briggs followed her to the lobby. On the front counter sat a plain cardboard box. No address. No fingerprints. No delivery record. Just a single word written in jagged black marker. "You missed me." Mara felt her blood run cold. "Bomb squad," Briggs whispered. "Not yet," Mara said. Some instinct told her this wasn't explosive. This was psychological. A message. She put on gloves, lifted the lid, and froze. Inside was a ceramic shard, painted white, cracked, exactly like the mask from the warehouse. But this piece had been freshly broken, and beneath it, a smaller slip of paper. She wasn't the only one watching. Mara's pulse thudded in her ears. Someone had been following the victim. Someone had been inside her building. Someone had stood at her door while she slept. And now, someone was watching Mara. The box stayed on the lobby counter, untouched, as the precinct's fluorescent lights flickered overhead like nervous breaths. Officers whispered in the hallways, murmuring theories, trading glances. Everyone knew what it meant when a killer reached out personally. He was escalating. He was proud. And he wanted Detective Mara Ellison to know it. Mara stood perfectly still, staring down at the ceramic shard. Her jaw clenched, not in fear, but in a cold, simmering fury she hadn't felt since the Carson Street murders. Briggs watched her carefully. "You all right?" he asked. "No," she said, her voice flat. "But I will be." She lifted the shard gently, turning it over in her gloved hand. Smooth. Cold. The edges sharp, as if deliberately broken to create a jagged point or a symbol. "He broke this recently," Mara muttered. Right before sending it, Briggs stepped closer. "Why taunt us now?" "Because he thinks he's in control," Mara said. "He thinks he's invisible." "And is he?" She slipped the shard into an evidence bag. Not anymore. In many true crime cases, killers escalate after the first public discovery of their crime. Experts say it's a twisted blend of ego, control, and desperation. The killer wants attention, but on his terms. What Detective Ellison received that morning wasn't just a threat. It was an invitation, a challenge, a game. But what she didn't know was that this game had already started long before Lydia Marin was killed. Mara and Briggs returned upstairs, where a tech team had gathered around the evidence table. Forensic analyst Jessa Cole peered at the mask shard under magnification. "This is definitely handmade," Jessa said. "Porcelain. Kiln-fired. Not mass-produced. Someone molded this by hand." "A hobbyist?" Briggs asked. "Or a craftsman," Jessa corrected. "But look here. See these faint grooves? These are intentional score marks." Mara leaned over. Meaning the mask wasn't cracked accidentally," Jessa said. "He designed it to break apart, like pieces of a puzzle." A chill moved through the room. "So how many pieces are missing?" Mara asked. Jessa exhaled. "Judging by curvature and spacing, at least 9. Maybe 10. 10 pieces. 10 shards. 10 messages. A series. A countdown." Mara didn't say it, but the implication hung in the air like a stain that wouldn't wash out. Hours later, Mara stared at a whiteboard filled with Lydia's details. A neat, tragic timeline. 1:48 a.m., the shadow at her door. 2:15 a.m., movement stops in hallway. 3:06 a.m., camera battery drained. Unknown time, abduction. "Run the footage again," she told Briggs. He frowned. "We've watched it 3 times. Then we'll watch it a 4th. They press play. Grainy footage. Sleeping victim. Creaking door. Shadow. Whisper. And then, the moment Mara's instincts fired. "Pause it," she snapped. Briggs froze the frame. "There. Zoom in." Briggs enlarged the doorway shadow, though the pixels strained to keep shape. But it was enough. The silhouette wasn't facing Lydia. It was turned slightly, as if looking down the hallway, as if someone else had been there. "Someone else was in the building," Mara whispered. "Someone standing outside Lydia's line of sight." "A second suspect?" Briggs asked. "Or a witness," Mara answered. This was the moment the case shifted. Up until now, police believed Lydia's stalker worked alone. But Detective Ellison spotted something that no one else had. A second shadow. A silent bystander. A person who saw everything, yet said nothing. A silent witness. As night fell outside the precinct windows, Mara replayed the clip again and again, glancing between grainy pixels and her own notes. "We need names," she said finally. "Anyone living on Lydia's floor. Anyone who moved out. Anyone who got evicted in the last 6 months." Briggs nodded and headed off. Mara rubbed tired eyes. Her head throbbed. The emotional weight of the case had begun to settle deep in her chest. "Don't do that," a voice said from the doorway. It was Officer Ramirez, holding a steaming cup of peppermint tea. She placed it gently on Mara's desk. "You look like you're about to implode." Mara managed a weak smile. "Thanks. I'm fine." "No, you're not." Ramirez's voice softened. "You've been here 19 hours. I'll sleep when the killer's in cuffs." Ramirez hesitated. "You think he's watching the investigation?" "I don't think," Mara said. "I know." Briggs reappeared, waving a printout. "Got something." Lydia's immediate neighbor, apartment 3B, moved out suddenly 3 weeks ago. No forwarding address. Left no belongings behind except a broken lamp. Mara stood instantly. "Name?" "Caleb Rowan." Mara froze. "Rowan. The same last name as Detective Rowan. The same Detective Rowan who dismissed Lydia's report." A cold realization pierced through Mara's chest. "Is he related?" she asked. Briggs checked the document. "Son." Mara felt a sharp spike of adrenaline. Detective Rowan had a son living on Lydia's floor. A son who suddenly disappeared. A son who left behind a broken lamp, possibly during a struggle. Rowan hadn't ignored Lydia's report because he was lazy. He ignored it to bury the connection. "Where is Detective Rowan?" Mara asked calmly, but her voice had turned to steel. Briggs swallowed. "He clocked out 3 hours ago. Didn't say where he was going." Mara grabbed her coat. "Let's go." "Where?" "To his house." This was the first official crack inside the police department. A conflict no detective wants to face, a fellow officer tied, possibly intimately, to a violent murder. But Mara Ellison had learned long ago, trust the evidence, not the badge. Detective Rowan's home sat in a quiet suburban neighborhood, one of those places where everyone kept their lawns trimmed and their secrets buried. Mara walked up the driveway with Briggs close behind. Lights were on inside. Shadows moved behind the curtains. She knocked firmly. No answer. Briggs stepped forward. "Rowan, open up." Still nothing. Mara tried the knob. Unlocked. She pushed the door open slowly. "Rowan," she called. The living room was messy. Papers strewn everywhere. A whiskey bottle half empty. A badge tossed carelessly on a recliner. In the corner sat Rowan himself, head in his hands, shaking. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red and haunted. "You found out," he whispered. Mara stepped forward. "Where is your son, detective?" Rowan didn't answer. His face crumpled. And then, slowly, he lifted a small object off the coffee table. A ceramic shard. White. Cracked. Matching the same mask. Rowan's voice broke. "He left this in my mailbox, Mara. He wants me to stay quiet. He's not my son anymore." He swallowed hard. "God help me. I think Caleb is the one you're hunting." The entrance to the tunnels didn't look like much. Just a rusted storm drain grate several blocks from the depot, hidden behind a stack of rotting pallets and a graffiti mural that had faded into muted stains. But Mara Ellison felt its presence like a pulse beneath the city, steady, cold, ancient. Jonah's breath fogged in the morning air as he crouched beside her, staring down into the narrow opening. "Brookfall's lungs," he whispered. Mara nodded once. "Let's hope they're not collapsing on us." They lifted the grate together, metal groaning like a dying animal. A wave of air rolled out, damp, metallic, faintly sweet, like meat left too long in the heat. Jonah gagged slightly. Mara didn't. She had smelled worse. They descended the ladder one rung at a time. The tunnel swallowed them whole. Jonah clicked his flashlight on. Its beam trembled against mold-slick walls lined with faint symbols, spirals, tally marks, slashes. Some fresh, some decades old, some carved deep enough to have meaning. But it wasn't the markings that made Jonah's skin crawl. It was the silence. Not the quiet of being underground, but the hunted kind of silence, like something else was listening. "Mara," Jonah whispered. "Do you think Rowan's son?" "Not now," she cut in. Her jaw tightened. "Stay close. Don't stop moving." Every few steps, Mara shined her light on the walls, scanning for disturbances in dust, footprints, or signs of forced entry. Jonah noticed her hand barely shaking, the smallest tremor, whenever she paused too long on a marking that resembled a diamond-shaped eye. He didn't ask why. He didn't have to. The phrase carved into the metal door near Clara's body, "I keep what they lose," reappeared here. Repeated, etched into concrete pillars, scrawled on peeling posters, carved into the back of an old maintenance sign. Jonah swallowed hard. "They've been down here a long time." Mara's voice was even. "Decades. And Clara found them." "No," Mara said. She found the truth they were hiding. They reached a junction where the tunnels widened into a cavern-like space. Rows of broken floodlights hung from the ceiling like decaying fruit. Beneath them, a cluster of metal chairs formed a semicircle around a raised platform built from old shipping crates. Jonah froze. This looks like a classroom." Mara corrected him. "A shrine." At the center sat an altar of sorts, a metal table layered with objects arranged with obsessive precision. A cracked mask, newspaper clippings from the 1990s disappearances, a stack of old-school notebooks, Polaroids of children lined up in rows. And at the very top, a single, laminated report, "Missing person, Michael Ellison. Age 14. Mara didn't breathe. She stepped closer, fingertips grazing the edge of her brother's file. "Cold. Too clean. Recently handled," Jonah whispered. "Mara, your brother. Don't." Her voice was ice. "Not now." Then Jonah noticed something else. In the dust surrounding the altar, footprints, 2 sets, overlapping each other, circling, pacing. One large, one small. He tightened his grip on the flashlight. This wasn't just one killer, Jonah said. This is a system. Mara nodded without turning. A mentor and an apprentice. And Caleb is the apprentice? Mara's throat bobbed once. He's part of something older. Something that survived because it stayed underground. Jonah swallowed. So who's the mentor? A voice answered from the darkness. The city knows him by many names. Jonah's flashlight snapped toward the sound. A figure stepping from the shadows, slow, deliberate. A tall man in a long-dried, blood-spattered coat, face concealed behind a mask far more intact than the shattered fragments near Clara's body. The mask had one defining feature. A diamond-shaped eye etched into its forehead. Mara raised her weapon instantly. Jonah nearly dropped the light. And you, the masked man said, know him by one. He stepped forward into the beam. Detective Rowan, but older, more hollow, as if carved out and refilled with someone else entirely. Jonah's lungs seized. Mara didn't lower her gun. Rowan, she said quietly, take off the mask. The man laughed, a quiet, rattling sound. I'm not Rowan. He lifted the mask slightly, revealing only his mouth, one that was not Rowan's at all. Rowan, he said, was just my first successful apprentice. Mara's blood froze. And Caleb, he added, is my last. Before Jonah could react, a second figure stepped from behind a crumbling support column. Caleb Rowan, eyes vacant, face pale, hands trembling with a mixture of fear and devotion. He wore a partial mask, fractured, mismatched pieces strapped together like a mosaic of stolen identities. Mara, Jonah whispered, he's a kid. No, the masked mastermind corrected him. He's a witness. Caleb stepped forward, each movement deliberate, rehearsed. Mara, he said softly, you shouldn't be here. Mara's heart cracked. Caleb, listen to me. This ends tonight. You don't have to be part of this. I already am, Caleb whispered. He found me when no one else did. Jonah shook his head. Found you? Or groomed you? Caleb's expression twitched. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded photograph, one Jonah instantly recognized from the altar. A photo of Mara's brother. He showed me truth, Caleb murmured. He showed me what Brookfall really does to its lost children. Mara stepped closer. Caleb, what happened to Michael? What do you know? Caleb hesitated, a fracture of doubt in his hollow obedience. He tried to expose them, Caleb said. The ones who used the tunnels before us. The ones who erased the missing. The ones who. The mastermind placed a hand on Caleb's shoulder. Caleb fell silent immediately. Enough, the masked man said. You're not ready to tell that truth yet. Mara's voice cracked. You manipulated him. Just like Rowan. Just like the others. No, the masked figure said calmly. I shaped them. He stepped fully onto the altar platform. I keep what they lose, he said, gesturing to the shrine. Do you know what that really means, Detective Ellison? Mara tightened her grip on her gun. It means, the mastermind said, I keep those your system discards. Caleb nodded slowly, like a disciple repeating scripture. Mara, Caleb whispered, he saved me. Jonah stepped forward, voice sharp. He didn't save you. He claimed you. Caleb's jaw clenched. His loyalty wavered. Jonah saw it. Mara saw it. The mastermind saw it too. His tone sharpened. Caleb, he warned, remember who lifted you out of the dark. Caleb flinched, and Mara realized the truth. This wasn't partnership. This was possession. The mastermind stepped down from the altar with surgical grace. You've come far enough, detective, he said. You've wandered deep into memory. Deeper than most survive. Mara's voice was steady. Where is my brother? The masked man tilted his head. He is everywhere, he said. In every wall. Every corner. Every forgotten file. His story birthed this place. Jonah snapped. Enough riddles. Did you kill him or not? Silence. Then, no, the mastermind said. Michael Ellison was not killed. Mara's chest tightened painfully. He was taken, the mastermind continued. But not by me. Jonah's heart dropped. Then by who, he pressed. The mastermind turned slowly and pointed at Caleb. Caleb shook violently, backing away. No, I didn't take him, Caleb cried. I wasn't even born. That's not what I mean, the mastermind said. He circled Caleb like a serpent. You carry Michael's purpose, his unfinished work, his voice. Mara's head spun. What are you talking about? She demanded. The mastermind stepped back and spread his arms wide. Michael found the entrance to the tunnels long before we did. He believed the city hid its sins here. He believed the forgotten deserved justice. He built the earliest symbols, the earliest clues, the earliest rituals. Caleb's whisper cut the air. He was the first witness. Jonah froze. Mara stopped breathing. The mastermind continued. The city buried him, silenced him, sealed the tunnels. But truth survives. It grows. It finds new keepers. His gloved hand gripped Caleb's shoulder possessively. Caleb is the voice Michael never had, and I am the one who protects the witnesses. Mara raised her gun. Step away from him. The mastermind exhaled a quiet laugh. You still don't see it. He lifted his mask fully. Mara and Jonah both recoiled. The face beneath was carved with self-inflicted scars, symmetrical, ritualistic, forming a map of symbols identical to those in the tunnels. Not Rowan, not any known suspect. A ghost, a myth, a man erased by the system he now punished. My name, he said, is Elias Warrick. Jonah's stomach dropped. Warrick, the same Warrick from the 1990s case files. The drifter, the rumored suspect. His voice cracked. They said you died. I did, Warrick said. On paper. Mara's voice hardened. You took children. You killed them. No, Warrick hissed. I elevated them. I preserved them. I turned them into witnesses, voices for those your city silenced. Caleb stepped beside him like a loyal student. Jonah whispered, This is insane. Caleb, he's insane. You don't have to do this. Caleb's eyes glistened, hollow and wet. You don't understand, Caleb whispered. He gave me meaning. Mara reached for him, emotionally, desperately. Caleb, you can still choose a different path. Warwick's hand closed around Caleb's wrist. No, detective, he said softly. He already has. And then Warwick lunged. Chaos detonated. Jonah dove behind a pillar as Warwick swung a rusted pipe. Sparks flew as metal met concrete. Mara fired, a clean, controlled shot, grazing Warwick's arm. He didn't scream. He smiled. Caleb froze, torn between fear and obedience, trembling violently. Caleb, Mara shouted. Move. Warwick turned on her instantly. You don't deserve him. He charged, but Jonah tackled him from the side, flashlight clattering across the floor. Warwick slammed Jonah against a wall with terrifying strength. Jonah gasped. Mara, go. Get Caleb. Mara sprinted toward Caleb, grabbing his shoulders. Caleb, listen to me. You can break free. You're not him. You're not your father. You're not Warwick. Caleb's breathing hitched. I don't know who I am anymore. You're someone who can choose. Mara cried. Right now. Behind them, Warwick roared, lifting Jonah by the collar. You don't get to rewrite his story. Mara swung her gun toward Warwick. Let him go. Warwick laughed through bloodied teeth. You want truth, detective? Here's truth. He shoved Jonah aside and pointed toward the altar. The tunnels hid no bodies. No trophies. No graves. Jonah swallowed blood. Then where are they? Warwick smiled. In the city. Mara's voice broke. What does that mean? It means, Warwick said softly, Michael never left Brookfall. Caleb whispered, terrified. What did you do to him? Warwick responded in a whisper filled with reverence. I made him eternal. Mara snapped. Where is my brother? Warwick stepped back, lifting his arms. Every witness carries a piece of him. Every symbol. Every ritual. Every message. Michael's vision built this sanctuary. His truth guides us still. Jonah's stomach twisted. He turned Michael into ideology, Jonah whispered. Not a victim. A doctrine. Mara's soul cracked. You didn't save him, she said through tears. You erased him. Warwick tilted his head. No, detective. He smiled, slow, wide, monstrous. I made him unforgettable. Mara fired. The bullet tore through Warwick's shoulder. He stumbled but didn't fall. He lunged again, this time toward Caleb, trying to drag him down another tunnel. Caleb! Mara screamed. Jonah staggered forward. Caleb's mask slipped. His hands shook. His loyalty shattered. I'm not your witness, Caleb whispered. He tore himself free. Warwick's eyes widened, betrayal like a knife. No. Mara seized the moment. She fired again. This time the shot was clean. Warrick fell to the ground, mask cracking in two. Caleb collapsed to his knees, sobbing. "It's over," Mara whispered, holding him tightly as sirens echoed faintly overhead. But Jonah shook his head, voice trembling. "No," he said. "It's not over." He pointed at the symbols carved into the walls, hundreds of them. Warrick wasn't working alone. This cult, these witnesses, there are more. Mara's stomach turned. Caleb wiped his face, whispering through broken breaths. "He trained others, all over the city. You didn't stop the movement." He looked up at Mara with wide, hollow eyes. "You only killed the leader." By the time backup arrived, Warrick was dead. Caleb was in custody, not as a criminal, but as a victim of long-term psychological grooming. Jonah was bleeding but alive. Mara was quiet, too quiet. They emerged from the tunnels into flashing lights, radio chatter, and a wall of horrified officers, all trying to piece together the scene unfolding beneath their city. The press would later call the tunnels Brookfall's underground cathedral, a sanctuary for the witnesses, a cult obsessed with collecting the city's forgotten. Jonah's report would expose it all, every name, every case file, every cover-up from the 1990s to now. It would become the most read investigative piece in Brookfall history. Caleb would spend months in rehabilitation, slowly breaking free from Warrick's psychological chains. Mara would stand in her brother's childhood bedroom that night, staring at the blank spaces where his notebooks once were. Every case she solved would always bring her back here. Every truth she uncovered would echo with his absence. But for the first time in decades, she whispered, "I found you, Michael. I finally found where your story went." Jonah joined her on the porch as dawn crept in. The city breathed uneasily, still feverish, still wounded. "Do you think it's over?" Jonah asked quietly. Mara looked toward the skyline, where tunnels still breathed beneath the streets. "No," she said softly. "But now we know where to look." Jonah nodded. "And what about Caleb?" Mara exhaled a long, steady breath. "He isn't a witness anymore." She stepped off the porch, adjusting her jacket as the first emergency call of the new day chimed on her radio. "But I still am." Brookfall would whisper secrets again, and she would be there to hear them. This story reveals how deep hidden truths can run beneath a city's surface. What's one mystery in your own life you wish you could finally solve? Share your commitment in the comments. Your truth might help someone else. The city of Brookfall was quieter, but only just. The tunnels remained a scar beneath its streets, a haunting reminder of the truths humans bury and forget. Detective Mara Ellison returned to the precinct, her posture straighter, her eyes sharper. The grief for her brother's disappearance had not vanished, but it had transformed into purpose. She now carried his memory as a compass, a constant reminder of the forgotten, the dismissed, and the lost. She had begun leading a small task force to uncover cold cases and overlooked crimes, focusing on victims whose stories had never been heard. Every time she walked past a neglected building or a closed archive, she felt Michael's presence, a quiet assurance that she was not alone in her pursuit of justice. Jonah Reyes found himself back at the keyboard, reconstructing the events with meticulous care. His exposé on the tunnels, Warrick, and the Witness Network became a viral sensation. More importantly, it reignited his belief in truth and integrity. He continued reporting, cautiously but boldly, focusing on stories that revealed systemic corruption and hidden injustices in Brookfall. The city feared him, respected him, and, unknowingly, relied on him to amplify the voices of those silenced. Caleb Rowan entered rehabilitation under strict psychological care. His journey was far from over, but he began to understand that his identity wasn't bound to Warrick or the cult. He learned to distinguish between indoctrination and autonomy. In time, he would use his knowledge to assist law enforcement in dismantling lingering cult cells. His path toward redemption was painful, uncertain, but real. The families of the victims, Clara Weiss, Sanaa Richards, and countless others, finally received answers. For some, closure came slowly. For others, The wounds reopened when the depth of Warrick's manipulation was revealed. But the acknowledgement of truth, the recognition of their loved one's suffering, was a balm in a city long accustomed to neglect. Not all of Warrick's network had been uncovered. Some tunnels, some clues, some witnesses remained hidden. Mara knew the city's history was layered and complex, and even the most exhaustive investigation could not unearth everything. Yet, the revelation had changed Brookfall. The community began taking notice. Abandoned buildings were monitored, missing children were treated seriously, and citizens became more vigilant. The ripple effects of Mara and Jonah's work extended beyond the immediate victims. The city slowly began to reclaim the stories of those it had once ignored. Mara stood on the rooftop of the Brookfall Historical Archives, dawn light spilling across the skyline. She breathed in the city, its rhythm both familiar and disquieting. The tunnels below were silent for now, but she knew that history repeats itself when forgotten. Jonah approached quietly. "Do you ever feel like the city will always have more secrets than we can uncover?" Mara looked down at the streets, a faint smile forming. "Maybe, but every truth we bring to light makes a difference. Every lost story we preserve is a victory." Jonah nodded. "And your brother?" Mara's eyes softened. "He's everywhere. In the walls, in the files, in every kid we save. He's not gone, not if we remember him." She turned to the city, her hand resting on the cool metal railing. The skyline glimmered with hope, tension, and danger, all coexisting, all waiting for those brave enough to confront it. Stories like this remind us that hidden truths surround us all. Some are buried by time, some by human negligence, and some by deliberate cruelty. But uncovering them, seeking justice, remembering the lost, that is what keeps our society human. If this story gripped your curiosity and challenged your understanding of the unseen, please like this video. It helps more people discover these thrilling tales. Subscribe for more stories of mystery, crime, and hidden truths that fuel your pursuit of answers. And most importantly, look for opportunities in your own life to uncover what is hidden. What truth will you seek this week? Share your commitment in the comments below. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the lost are not gone. They're just waiting for someone brave enough to find them.